But then it's the what's next. It's what are we going to look at next? Because it's all about staying stopped, isn't it, really? And that whole idea of let's create a life that we don't have to escape from. That's the key. That's why it's a growing well-being niche. That's why we really need more people to work as trained coaches. We've got a whole bunch of people that have trained with us in the Sober Club who are absolutely rocking it. I'm going to introduce you to Polly in a little while. But one of the things to stress with the training that I offer is very comprehensive, but there's no one way of using it. And I think that's the bit that gets really exciting, because if you quit the booze and now you're thinking about potentially a new purpose, there doesn't have to be only one way to make that happen for you. So obviously lots of the coaches that train with me go on to work one-to-one with clients, and they'll work online, or perhaps they'll do online courses. Some do group programs, but there are others who just go, you know what, that I don't really want to do anything like that at all. In fact, I don't want to be on social media. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I just want to take people for walks. So we've got coaches who literally just take people for sober strolls, and some who do retreats, and some who do yoga classes, and another one in Scotland who runs a craft cafe where she then has conversations about quitting alcohol. So the really great thing about this is that you get to choose how you support other people. And I think that's really empowering and really exciting, because it means you can literally create the business, if you like, that works for you. And then, of course, there are other people who train with me who actually don't end up coaching. They just use the tools and the techniques in some other way, because there's an awful lot of personal transformation as well with this training. Holly will tell us about her experience in a little while. So who is it for? Who is a great fit for being a sober coach? Well, really the number one credential, if you like, is someone who has changed their own relationship with alcohol. And this is something I think is really important. And I make this a kind of a non-negotiable. I do get lots of people asking me whether they can do the training. They're often therapists or coaches in another kind of sector, or practitioners, and they want to do the training because they can see the opportunity. They can see that there's a lot of people wanting the support. But I can't accept anyone onto this training unless they have quit the booze. It's really as simple as that. And it's an interesting one. And I end up having conversations, shall we say, and probably, winding some people up the wrong way, because the thinking, you see, with coaching generally, as I'm sure you know, is that with many areas of life coaching, you don't have to have the thing that you're coaching, if you see what I mean. So I think that I could work with someone who wanted to, let's say, drink less coffee, even though I like my coffee, right? I could work with someone who wants to improve their fitness, even though I'm not a gym bunny. That they're sort of that's quite normal in life coaching. But my belief is that this is completely different. When you've quit alcohol, it's completely different. And what we teach, the well-being through sobriety, is literally about all of who you are. It's about stepping into a whole new identity. And I genuinely don't think you can support people with that unless you've been through it yourself. So to that end, we do make that the prerequisite. So, of course, if you are a practitioner or a coach and you are also sober, then fantastic. It's an amazing, amazing add-on to what you already do. We've got several coaches who work as, we've got a couple of hypnotherapists in our group. We've got several yoga teachers. We've got a somatic healer. We have a couple of psychotherapists. There's a bunch of people who add this on to what they already do. But if you've never had any coaching experience, that's fine too, because we give you everything you need. So you don't have to already be a coach to be able to do this training. You do have to have changed your own relationship with alcohol. You have to love sobriety. I can't work with anyone whose attitude is, I wish I could drink again, because why would you want to? And also, if you are the kind of person that really wants to give something back, to do something meaningful. I think that's super important. That positivity about sobriety is really what underpins everything. If you're someone who wants to support others, you want them to be able to live their best life the way you're able to now, or at least, you may not be fixed, you may not be perfect, but you're on the right path if you've quit alcohol. Then you can find a relatively fast way of doing this, without years and years of training and loads of essays, which we don't do any of, by the way. You can really get to do incredible work in a relatively short space of time. I can see a question already. Oh, maybe that was a question for somebody else in the group. You're all having a chat. Fantastic. 6 months. Is that Meg? Yeah, Meg says 6 months sober. Hopefully that sounds good. And if you've got any questions, you're very welcome to just put them in the chat. I will come back to questions later. But before we go any further, let me just tell you a little bit as well about the fact that this particular training is really holistic. So again, if you are the sort of person that purely wants to work with somebody just to quit alcohol, you wouldn't enjoy this training, because it's so much more than that. It's really comprehensive. And the reason for that is that I'm such a big believer in the fact that you have to do all of the pieces. And so often when we quit alcohol, we're then, from that place, we're able to see just how important nutrition is, just how important it is to get our mindset right, and to be able to bring ourselves back to balance and regulate our nervous system and all of these pieces. And so that's what we cover in the training. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily come out of this training as a fully trained nutritionist, but you do have enough to be able to work with people through those early weeks of sobriety, which is really cool. We also have some other fabulous modalities like EFT. Put your hand up if you've heard of EFT tapping. Anyone heard of tapping here? Yeah, a few of you? It's becoming a lot more popular than it used to be, because a lot of celebs use it, and it's amazing for bringing down anxiety. So again, you wouldn't leave the training a fully qualified EFT practitioner, but you have enough EFT to use with your clients, which again is really cool, all wrapped up in one training. Similarly with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Anyone heard of NLP? Polly has. Anyone else? So again, exactly the same. We have enough NLP tools and techniques to be able to use within our coaching, which is absolutely magical. It's incredibly powerful stuff. So in other words, it's an awful lot more than just not drinking. It really is the whole shebang. One of the things that you might be thinking to yourself is, well, am I capable? Can I do this? One woman said to me, oh God, I haven't studied, in inverted commas, since I was at school. And there's no need. You really don't need to do, weeks or months of study. We start this training with 2 in-person days for those who can make it in person. If you can't make it in person, it can all be done online. But for those who can make it in person, those days are pretty transformative. And when you embrace everything there, that's the kind of core module materials. And then after that, we have some sessions online. Everything is recorded for you, but you do not need to be studying books for months on end. Somebody asked me, one of the questions I get asked a lot is about the accreditation for the training. So obviously, if you do this training, you get my Sober Club coach accreditation, which is becoming well known, which is great. So I've trained hundreds of coaches now. But in addition to that, the training itself is accredited by the IPHM, International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine, and also the IGHT, the International Guild of Holistic Therapists. And sometimes people will say, well, I've heard of ICF, like the International Coaching Federation. Why aren't you accredited there? And the answer is because I chose not to go that route, simply because I wanted to create a training that was fast, right? It's fully comprehensive. It's absolutely everything you need, but you don't have to take a year. You can take a year if you want to. You can take as long as you like with this training. But for those people who are kind of ready to rock, you could also be up and running within 8 weeks. And that's what I wanted. I also did not want any formal written stuff. That was really important to me. And I know that, you know, many of these accreditations require written work. And the thinking for me was, when I was, you know, waking up at 3 a.m. every day, you know, hating myself and wondering what the hell I was going to do, when that little voice was saying to me, this has got to stop, you know, what are you doing? I needed someone who'd been there, done it, got the t-shirt, to be able to say to me, you know, it's okay, sweetheart, it's not your fault. You became addicted to an addictive substance. It's not your fault. Let's help you. Let's get you inspired. That's what I needed. I didn't need someone who could write an essay on addiction. So it was very important for me that that we went that route. So I just sort of get that out of the way. So anyway, that's a long way of saying you don't need to be able to write an essay. You don't need to have decades of sobriety behind you either. You do need to be solid in your sobriety. That is important. But some people do this training when they have not necessarily been sober for very many months, because it lays the foundations for themselves. It's really transformative. You get the personal mastery in there. You may not become a coach straight away, but you go through all of this stuff for yourself, because there's no doubt about it. The more fine-tuned you are, the better coach you're likely to be. So that's really one of the amazing things about this training, is that there's all the kind of personal growth wrapped up in it. So you're able to do all of this stuff for yourself, as well as learning how you would work with clients. You obviously do need to be compassionate. Actually, I think most people, when they quit alcohol, are. Don't you? Has anyone put your hand up if you found that people are kinder because they're sober? Do you think you're more kind? Or is it just me? I'm definitely kinder. It's funny, isn't it? People are nicer. People are nicer when they're sober. It does something to you in that respect. So yeah, you do need to be compassionate. You do need curiosity, and you definitely need a willingness to want to support other people. And that's often what brings people to this training, is that sense of, I feel excited, I feel grateful for what I have, right? So in fact, if a couple of you wouldn't mind popping in the chat, what do you feel that sobriety has given you? If you can just sum it up in a few words, pop it in the chat. What do you feel it's given you? What do you feel is different about you, maybe, now that you're sober? It would be nice to read a few of positive messages. Am I capable of doing this question? Yeah. And then, of course, that leads on to what we touched on before, which is that whole idea of imposter syndrome. Now, a few of you put your hand up when I mentioned it. It's such a thing, this fear that we're not going to be able to do something because it sits outside of our comfort zone. And yet, one thing we know is that being sober makes you brave, right? I'm sure you'd agree with that too, right? Being sober makes you brave. It means you can step out of your comfort zone, which is fantastic. Okay, I've got some lovely things coming in here. A freedom, improved sleep, positivity, and a new zest for life. Now, how cool is that? Summed up right there. How fantastic. I love it. Peace, patience, and resilience. Beautiful. Self-compassion, more love, time for passion, curiosity, and oh yeah, and that's a big one. Yeah, absolutely. My mind has much more room. The drink chatter has gone. God, yeah. More clarity, helping me figure out who I really am. Yeah, I love all of those. Look at that. Just look at that. There's only a few of us here, and look at the positivity there. How amazing is that? No more wasted days fighting hangovers. God, you get so much more time, don't you, when you quit alcohol? So much more time. And this new sense of purpose that can come from quitting alcohol, having all this peace that you talk about here, more clarity. Yeah, no more wasted days. And with that comes this feeling so often of, I wonder if there's something else there for me. I wonder if there's a new purpose. But of course, with that can often come fear, because then the next thing that comes into your mind is, oh, but I wouldn't be able to do it, or, oh, I can't find the money, or, oh, what would other people say, or how will I fit it in? There's always a what if. And so, I'm really, really aware of that. I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to give you a little exercise in a little while to touch on that as well. In terms of what does get in the way for people when they do decide they want to do this, it's really important to stress that this training it's really comprehensive. It covers absolutely everything you need, but it's very flexible and very part-time, in inverted commas. It can absolutely be slotted in to whatever else is going on in your life. You do need those 2 days to really immerse yourself in those core modules at the beginning of each training cohort. That's really important. If you're not able to come to the UK, then you would have videos delivered to you that you'd have to find time to look at, and then we'd have a one-to-one. But those 2 days are really important. And then the live sessions after that is fantastic if you can make it. But if you can't, everything is recorded. So, you know, I say this because I had one coach, and she started the training. She did the 2 days. I think she did one of our live sessions, and then life got in the way. Something kicked off, and obviously she had to deal with whatever it was. But it didn't matter. She picked up 6 months later, and then went through everything again. And then we had a one-to-one when the time was right. So it you know, it can fit your life is the point. It can be completely flexible. And then when it comes to actually starting your coaching business, if that's something you do want to do, then again, one of the great things with this training is that we've incorporated some business stuff too. So you actually get some guidance on how you're going to find your ideal clients, how you're going to market yourself, how you're going to put yourself out there and get your messaging right. But we do that in a really heart-centered way, because I am not a fan of pushy sales techniques. If any of you come on a call with me, and I hope you will, I will not try and force anyone to work with me, because for me it's all about that intuition. It's about having that sense of intuition that this feels right. And we'll teach you those skills. We'll teach you the skills of knowing how to attract the right clients so that you're the right coach for them and they're the right client for you. And we can do that in a completely heart-centered way. So there's no kind of cutthroat, nasty business stuff going on here. It's done really authentically. But you do get to do those pieces, which for some people, they've never had a business before. So that's pretty cool. You know, you get all of that included as well. And then what else did I want to go on? In fact, let's bring Polly on while we're just talking about some of that stuff. Polly, thanks ever so much for joining us. It's lovely to see you.
Oh.
So I think some of you might have seen, if you've done one of these webinars before, or you might have met Polly before. You're becoming my little poster girl, Polly. I love looking at the stuff you do. It's really great fun. So tell us a little bit about your story, because what I'd love you to share is the fact that you were not coaching before, and yet now you are full time, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the coaching with Janey in June 2023, so I was just shy of 2 years sober. I'm just recognizing kind of some of the things that you were talking about, Janey, about like feeling really nervous and that kind of anxiety really about like making this step and doing this course, because I just thought, you know, who do you think you are? How are you going to help people, etc. And will I know enough? How can I kind of run a business? You know, how can I charge people? All of those things ran through my head, but I made the step. And I think what I would say is basically, if you are sober, you've got that lived experience and you've got that passion. And that is the number one thing that you have.
Yeah.
All the other things you get on the course. You get all the kind of training, you get a deep understanding in terms of your sober muscle. Your sober muscle really takes off. Honestly, it becomes even bigger and you feel really empowered going through the process. And I think I've found my sober voice. I didn't know what I was talking about. I knew what I felt, but I couldn't articulate it. And so I think for me, that was the biggest step. And yeah, so I worked in education. I'd never been a coach before, and it was the kind of head teacher, a full-on job working in schools. And how am I going to fit this in? But I was like, right, I'm going to do this. I remember like traveling up to, it was in Southend that you did the training then, and so I traveled up, and I kept having to stop at motorways because I couldn't take the time off to do meetings on the way on motorways stops to just get there. And I was like, I am determined to get there. And what I found was an amazing community, and that sense of community has continued for me. So it's not just do the course and then off you go. It's you do the course, and then if you want, and there is plenty of opportunity to do that, you can stay within the community, and that really, really builds. And
Mm,
I was just talking to another coach, Janey, who just did the training in June, and
mm,
she did another sober coach with somebody else, and she was like, "Oh,
mm.
this is so much better." And she goes, "I really got this sense of community. I wasn't just left."
Yeah. Well, on that note, I know exactly who you mean. Yeah. Yeah. I've had several people come and do this training who've done other coach trainings. And I'm sure the coach trainings are great. I'm not out to diss anyone. It's just that I know that this training is way more comprehensive, probably just because of me, because I'm the kind of person I want to kind of add everything in. It's because of this kind of, I suppose, passion that I have for things being really holistic. So I don't really want to teach just one piece, because I think, if you do, so much gets missed out. There are so many people who they'll quit alcohol, for example, but then they'll get a raving sugar head on. Anybody know that? I'm sure lots of us have been there, right? But actually, we know that there are ways of regulating the nervous system and working with nutrition. So that's why I have to kind of do the comprehensive piece. But just to pick up on what you said about the community, I'm glad you mentioned it, because when I did my own sober coach training, I was already a coach, but I added on the sober coach training from the States, and I did 6 weeks of online sessions. By the way, it was twice the price of this training. But then at the end of those 6 weeks, that's it. Gone, nothing, no connection, nothing. Now, I was already a coach, so I was okay. But if I hadn't have been, I really would have felt lost, actually. So again, that's why I wanted to make sure that the connection and the mentoring stays. So any coach can come to me at any time. I'm not going to turn them away, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. And there are times that you may need to kind of connect with Janie over something. Like I've got a question with a client, and there's something I need to figure out, and like there's that ability to kind of communicate, which is for me has been really, really helpful in building my confidence in
Yeah. I
being
mean, I
a
know
coach.
you said you came out the course like felt like a different person, right?
Yeah. Oh, completely. I
I
mean,
remember you had real blocks around money. Because so
yeah,
lots of people do. If you're in a caring kind of profession, if you want to help people, you often have this mindset, like, oh, I must do everything for free. But actually, we know that when people invest, that's when they take action. So actually charging for what we do is really important. We have a whole kind of session on how do we do this in a heart-centered way? Because the reality is, if you don't need the money, and if any of you here are kind of thinking, oh, I would never charge, I would really urge you to charge anyway, charge properly anyway, and then you can always set up a charity or give in another way. But when you do charge clients, that's when they're typically ready to invest.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And in terms of value for money for the course, I would say for me, it's been like an investment in my personally, it's been an investment for me. It changed me completely. And then in terms of my career, I just couldn't imagine what has happened because I have pivoted, I've pivoted from being full time in education to running my own business full time. And that's been, yeah, so I retired from education last year, took that step, and I had real blocks about that, which Janie helped me with as well. But I did it, and it's the best thing I've ever done. In some ways, my regret is that I hadn't done this in my kind of late 40s,
Mm.
50s, because I feel like the business I'm building now in my 60s, where would I be if I'd done it in my 40s and 50s? But hey,
Well, I know, yeah,
doing
it
it
gives you
now.
it gives you some interesting posts to put up, doesn't it? I saw something you did the other day about it's never too late to reinvent
Yeah,
yourself, is
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
And
This
the
is
thing
my
is,
best
we need
bet.
coaches of all different ages, don't we? That's the reality. One of our coaches is really young. I mean, I often think, oh, I wish I'd have done it when she's like 20, 27, I think, Danielle. But then we've got older people, and we've got people like Tony who works with guys over 60. And we need all ages. We really don't we? It's very
All
important.
ages, all backgrounds, and the biggest thing is it's just so amazing the gift that you give. I work with women who are kind of midlife and in successful women in business and in education, and the empowerment I give, the gift of supporting them on the sober journey and what happens through that process is just so powerful. I mean, it
Mm,
brings shivers to my arms right now just
mm.
thinking about it. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful, and it's the best thing I have ever done. So,
Yeah, it is incredibly rewarding. It
yeah.
really is. Thank you, Polly. I really appreciate it. It's really lovely of you to share. It's very inspiring. So thank you. And I appreciate you sharing that the difference that it made to you personally as well, because I think that's something that people don't necessarily expect. They don't really come for that, do they? They come because they want to start a whole new business or whatever. But
Yeah.
actually, you kind of get that along the way.
I think I got sober and then it was like, well, what's next? And then I
Yeah,
got a bit stuck. And so I think that was helped me shift, and it
yeah.
really changed my mindset about what I could do and my second act, as I call it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally love it. Okay, so look, let's just do this little exercise together. And I meant to tell you to bring a notebook. If you haven't got a notebook, I mean, you can just do it on your head, in your head, not on your head. But if you have got a notebook, I'll put this in an email for you anyway. So if you don't have a notebook now, you can just think it through. But I just want to do this tiny little exercise, which is around the whole idea of setting an intention, because I think when we've got any kind of imposter syndrome going on, or a little bit of fear or nerves, actually intentions can be the key. I want you to, because imposter syndrome, it's that thing of, well, who am I to do this, isn't it? But the intention, when you set your intention, you're declaring, right, this is how I'm going to show up. So intention can literally flip imposter syndrome, and it can help you flip that sense of, oh, will I be good enough? Or how do I reach perfection? Help you flip it to a sense of contribution. So one of the things that I'm always saying to coaches is, if you stay small, then you can't help anyone, right? So if you're able to step up and step into this new identity, then if you can shine a light for someone else. So you can literally support someone else. That's why it's really cool. The thing to do is to just jot down, what is my intention? Okay, what is my intention? And that might be, you might know, I want to be a sober coach, or I want to do X and Y, or it might just be an idea that's bubbling. You might not know for sure, but jot something down. So what is my intention? And by the way, that's not the same as a goal. I always think goals are a little bit new year, aren't they, really? But an intention is it's quite grounded. If it really is your intention, let's do that, right? Because intentions shut the inner critic up for a while you're busy, worrying about everything. Just set the intention. It shifts the focus away from the self-doubt and helps you think in the positive tense, because an intention will always be, written in the positive tense. So write that down then. My intention is, or if you are interested in coaching, by the way, and being a sober coach, then you can go one step further and say, my intention is to work as a coach to help someone feel, I don't know, quit alcohol, or to help them live their best life, or to show up with curiosity, or whatever it is for you, if you've got that far. If you know the kind of person you want to work with, you can drop that down as well. You absolutely don't have to. Some of you might already be thinking about that. That's like the foundation of your coaching identity, if you like. If you don't want to be a sober coach, then you might have another purpose in mind. So jot that down as well. But do that intention. So it's a wish, it's a statement, it's grounded, hopefully. And then the next thing I want you to write down is, well, you can write the letter S, which stands for strategic context, right? So what do I mean by that? What is the strategic context for the intention that you've just set? So what we mean by that is why, and why now? So if you have written down that you would like to be a sober coach, then write down why. Why does it feel that it's a good time to be a sober coach for you? Why is it? Because people have been asking you? Sometimes you get a situation where you're at the water cooler at work and someone says, actually, I want what you've got. Is it that people have started to ask you? Is it something about your energies changed? Is it that you've met a specific group of people that you would love to be able to support? Maybe there isn't a specific reason. Maybe it's just because it's time for you to give back. So ask yourself why. Why now? What's the strategic context? And then we're going back to another O, and you're going to write O for outcome. And what we mean by that is, when you have achieved your intention, when your intention comes to pass because now is the right time, what will it bring you? What will the outcome be for you? That's a really important question. We know from everything we've heard that you're going to be able to support other people towards all those lovely words we wrote down earlier, towards peace, towards resilience, towards having more clarity. But what about for you personally? What will be the outcome for you if you decide to go through with this? Will you feel empowered? Will you feel proud of yourself? Will you feel fulfilled? I don't know. Ask yourself, what will the outcome be? And this is really powerful stuff because this quiets the inner critic and the imposter syndrome voice, because this is about taking action and thinking positively and thinking about what you're giving, rather than that little ego voice that just goes, oh, I don't want anyone to look at me. This is more about, well, what can I actually do and for what reason? And then the final letter we're going to write down is an R, and the R is for resources. So what are the resources that I need? And whether that's training, come and do this training. You've got a link in the chat. Is it that you need finances? And we've had coaches who have not had the money for the training, but they've gone and spoken to somebody who has, whether that's a family member or a credit card company, and realize that actually you can make back your investment really quickly. So what is it for you? Is it training? Is it money? Is it time? And of course, time is something that, we all have the same amount, although I swear to God, I have less. I swear I have less than anyone else. But we do, don't we? We all have the same amount. It's what we do with it, isn't it, really? So jot that down for you, for yourself.